and the haters can relate. With the pride deflate, you adore Yah, magnify Yah, cause he's great.
Shalom, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, giving all praise and honor to the Holy One of Israel, to the Creator of the heaven, the earth, the sea, and all that is therein is, by saying hallelujah. Praise the mighty Yah. Yah's righteous. Yah's holy. And let Yahweh be magnified. Once again, the Creator has allowed us to come before you another day, another week, bringing to you his great, holy, and exalted words, even the words of truth. My name is Mowreh IshYAH, YIsraEL, of the house of Israel, bringing to you nothing but the truth. We're located right here in Cincinnati, Ohio, 1907 Vine Street, bringing to you nothing but the truth. And yes, it is true. All we're going to do is tell you the truth. For Yah ordained me to tell you the truth, so this is what I'm going to do. And who is this Yah? Yah is the creator of the heaven, the earth, the sea, and all that is therein is. Yah is the Elohim of our fathers, the Elohim of Abraham, Yitzhak, and YIsraEL, whom you may know as Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Yah is our king. He's our judge. He's our lawgiver. And he is our only savior, and not just of Israel. Yah is the savior of the world. And I praise the mighty Yah for allowing us to once again come before you with his great, holy, and exalted words. We apologize for the last few days that we had to suspend some of our programming due to certain works that had to be done in a sanctuary, so we could not broadcast. But we are back. And we're back dealing with a series of things that you're going to enjoy. And you should enjoy all the words of the Most High, because this is our life in the length of our days. I want to remind everyone, please visit our website, worldgatheringyisrael.org, worldgatheringyisrael.org, and begin and start, if you have not already making reservations for our upcoming summer conference, which will be held in Spencer, Tennessee. This is a 5-night, 6-day conference, which we will be having at Falls Creek in Spencer, Tennessee. Falls Creek, Tennessee. It is a camping site that we have selected where we all can be together, not one day or 2 days, not over the course of a weekend, but from Sunday, which is the first day of the week, until Friday. We will check out and depart that Friday, and then we'll be back in our prospective cities for the Shabbat and for that weekend. But we'll be together the whole week. The cost of our outing, which will be in the cabins, is $160 for the whole week. $160. And that includes your meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You cannot beat that nowhere. We're asking all the various leaders and all the various people of the house of Israel, which are the seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to join us. And we have various subjects that we will be dealing with. These subjects are vital to our salvation, vital to how we organize ourselves and prepare ourselves for the last days in which we are in. Visit our website and you will see the various subjects and all the various activities that we have planned. You'll hear us announce this every day so everybody can get an opportunity to hear us, make their reservations, and join us. It wasn't I. It wasn't you who told us, mandated for Israel to gather themselves together. Yea, gather yourselves together, O nation, not desire. So you can continue making excuses while you won't be there, while you won't join us. Everybody got them. Excuse here, excuse there, excuse everywhere. But at the end of the day, save your excuses to the Most High, because it wasn't I, nor was it you, who commanded our people to gather themselves together. Today, we're going to start, and we don't know how many days this is going to take us to discuss the fullness of the things that we need to discuss. So we're going to start today on part 1, Who is the Stranger? And there's a lot of things we have to cover to show who is the stranger, so our people will know how they must conduct themselves with the stranger. Also, there's various laws that our people must be aware of concerning the stranger. And also, how can the house of Israel come together and get their house in order if they don't know how to order and build their house? For the Creator lets us know, unless Yah build a house, they that labor in vain that build it. So there is no sense of us trying to build something and put the Most High on the back burner or on the sideline or on pause, as many of our people do. Well, I can't gather myself together. I'm going to put Yahweh on pause. Well, I can't do this, Lord, so I'm going to put Yahweh on the back burner. And I don't believe in this, so I'm going to put Yahweh on the sideline. Well, unless Yahweh build the house, they that labor in vain that build it. So we're going to talk about the stranger. Who is the stranger? So the first thing we're going to speak about is not where you think we're going to go. I want to show you names, people. I want you to see signs and wonders on who is the stranger. Because today, our people is, Yahweh said, my people is unto me as a speckled bird, which means this, that our people is this nation of many colors. We are a mixed up people. So mixed that our people don't know who they are, which makes it real difficult to know who the stranger is. But if our people pay close attention unto the word of Yah, they will know who they are, and they will know who the stranger is. So our people are not a people who can come and prove their birthright, their genealogy, or their land of nativity through documentation of what our enemies say you need to prove certain things. The only way our people can prove who they are and who the stranger is through the word of Yah. And I may add, this is the only way we can prove any truth. Who is the stranger? Somebody told me that there's somebody on the internet, some group, I don't know who they are. All I know is they will have Israelites or anybody who desire to be a part of Israel swab their mouth and take a genealogy test to determine if they're an Israelite or not. I don't know these people, but I know what they're doing is totally false and fake and not in the scriptures at all. And if you think you can know who you are by these various tests that the enemies give you, you're wrong. You cannot know. I'm going to teach you and show you by the word of Yah these things that you must know. Furthermore, you cannot know Israel or anybody else by some birth certificates and pictures and all kind of other things that's not scripture. So let us talk about who is the stranger. Now, why would I start at the stranger instead of who is Israel? Because our people want to make everybody Israel. And I just want you to see with your own eyes who is not Israel. And how Yahweh see these people. And where we're going to start in dealing with who is the stranger at the forefront of the house, because unless Yahweh build a house, they that labor in vain to build it. So we're going to start with the various marriages that we have allowed ourselves to succumb to. Marriages that were never supposed to happen. Relationships that Yahweh had warned our people against. And then after Yahweh warned our people, then our people question, why is this so? Why can't we get along? Why can't they accept the Most High? Well, Yahweh had already told us who won't accept him. So let us start this process. Let us see the word of Yah. The first thing I want you to see concerning who is the stranger in the book of Genesis, the book of Deuteronomy, the 7th chapter. Now, there are several parts of the stranger. So this is just the first part. In this first part, we started off with marriages. Watch what it says. In the book of Deuteronomy, starting at the 7th chapter, the very first verse. When Yahweh thy Elohim shall bring thee into the land whither thou goest to possess it, and have cast out many nations before thee, the Hittites, the Girgashites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites. 7 nations, greater and mightier than thou. And when thy Elohim shall deliver them before thee, thou shalt smite them and utterly destroy them. Thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor show mercy unto them. Neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Thy daughter thou shalt not give unto his son, nor his daughter shalt thou take unto thy son. And watch why. For they will turn away thy son from following me, that they may serve other deities. So will the anger of Yahweh be kindled against you, and destroy you suddenly. So what is the Creator's letting us know? These 7 nations off the top of the rack, off the top of the back, Yahweh said we are not to deal with. Now, many people don't know who these nations are today. even though many of these nations are still close and near the land that Yahweh spewed them out. Many of these nations. Some of them are totally destroyed. Some of them are still waiting, or still inhabiting, still around the land that belongs to us. So today, a lot of our people, they don't know who a Hittite is today, or a Canaanite, or a Girgashite, or a Jebusite, or a Perizzite, or a Hittite. So they might say, well, how can we know these people? How can we know these nations? Well, you might not know now. But one thing you do know, they're not Israelites. They're not that. And if they're not an Israelite, and you're not certain that they're not a Canaanite, and all these nations, all the Canaanite nations, all of them are black. So if you're not certain that these nations are Israel, it's just like anything else. If you're certain or you are uncertain that the food that you're eating don't contain pork, you're uncertain. So it's a possibility that it don't have pig in it. But it's a possibility that it do. It's a possibility this might be cooked with crab meat and shrimp. But it's a possibility that it's not. It's a possibility this got some fish oil that's not of a fish that has scales and fins. But it's a possibility that it is. In other words, you don't know. What should you do with the food? Well, you leave it alone. And why? Because you're uncertain. And when you are uncertain, you always give Yahweh the benefit of the doubt. And if there's a woman that you are unsure about, and you don't know whether she's Israel or not, you just give Yahweh the benefit of the doubt. But I'm going to show you how you can be sure. There's ways you can be sure. But these are 7 nations Yahweh told us we're not to make marriages with. And Yahweh never deviated from his word. This still stands until today. Just to show you this, if we go to the book of Zechariah, the 14th chapter, this is what the Most High said. And what are we speaking about? We're speaking about who is the stranger. So we know these 7 nations are strangers beyond a shadow of a doubt. We know that because we can't even make marriages with these people. Watch what it says in the book of Zechariah, the 14th chapter. And right now, we're just talking about and speaking about people who we might marry. We might have a desire to marry. Watch what it says. Zechariah 14. And we're going to start reading at the 16th verse. And it shall come to pass that everyone that is left of all the nations which came against Jerusalem shall even go up from year to year to worship the King, Yahweh of hosts, and keep the Feast of Tabernacles. In other words, Little do people know, not only has Yahweh prophesied to bring a remnant out of Israel amongst all the nations, Yahweh is only talking about a remnant of all the nations which came against Jerusalem that he will leave. And those he leave, those that escape the wrath of Yahweh, he says shall keep the feast of tabernacles. And watch what it says. And it shall be that whoso will not come up of all the families of the earth unto Jerusalem to worship the King Yahweh of hosts, even upon them shall be no rain. And if the family go not up and come not, that have no rain, there shall be the plague, whereof Yahweh will smite the heathen that come not up to keep the feast of tabernacle. So we can safely say, since Yahweh will use Egypt as an example, that there will be some Egyptians that will escape. But even though it shall be some Egyptians that will escape, and there will be a family of Egypt there, I'm going to show you what Yahweh still said about the Egyptians. Watch what this says. 18th verse. And if the family of Egypt go not up and come not, that have no rain, there shall be the plague whereof Yahweh will smite the heathen that come not up to keep the feast of tabernacles. This shall be the punishment of Egypt and the punishment of all the nations that come not up to keep the feast of tabernacles. And watch what it says, 20th verse. In that day shall there be upon the bells of the horses holiness unto Yahweh, and the pots in Yahweh's house shall be like the bowls before the altar. Yea, every pot in Jerusalem and in Yehudah shall be holiness unto Yahweh of hosts. And all they that sacrifice shall come and take of them, and seed therein. And in that day there shall be no more the Canaanite in the house of Yahweh of hosts. In other words, Yahweh didn't want them in his house in the beginning, and Yahweh will not have them in his house in the end. So what do this mean? Scratch the Canaanite nations. That's what that means. Furthermore, speaking of who is the stranger, you know these strangers because we can't even make marriages with them. He said a Canaanite won't even be in his house. But watch what Yahweh have to say in a book of 1 Kings. Just want you to see this. Because it's one thing just to talk about Gentiles and nations in a general sense. But it's another thing once you begin to start naming names. This is in the book of 1 Kings, the 11th chapter. The very first verse. And watch what it says. But King Solomon loved many strange women, together with the daughter of Pharaoh. And who is Pharaoh? Well, Pharaoh is the king of Egypt. women of the Moabites and Ammonites, Edomites, Zidonians, and Hittites. In other words, Solomon loved these strange women. Because what are we talking about? Who is the stranger? So you see in the names of various strangers. Now, this is not just them, because we're going to go into depth about these strangers. And watch what it says. Of the nations concerning which Yahweh said, not you, not I, but Yahweh, said unto the children of Israel, ye shall not go into them, neither shall they come in unto you. For surely they will turn away your heart after their deities. And Solomon clave unto these in love. And he had 700 wives, princesses, 300 concubines, and his wives turned away his heart. Just like Yahweh said. Now, who are they? The daughter of Pharaoh. I thought the Egyptians could come in. Yeah, in the last days, once Yahweh chooses remnant. Yahweh had not done that at this time. This is why this was sin to Solomon and the Moabites. I thought Ruth was a Moabite. She is. And we're going to get into that. And the Ammonites and the Edomites. I thought we supposed to love Esau, for he is our brother. But you got to see what Yahweh said about the Edomites in prophecy. And I'm going to show you that. The Zidonians and the Hittites. No, these are people just like the 7 Canaanite nations. These are women who Yahweh has said we're not to go in. We're not to give them our sons nor our daughters. Don't go into them and don't allow them to come into us. But today, our people have allowed themselves to go into other nations and allow the other nations to come into us. And now we are this mixed renegade of people and don't know who we are and don't know who the stranger is. But I'm here to tell you, you can know. Because Yahweh named names. And even if you don't know them by name, I'm going to show you by signs and by wonders. Furthermore, who is the stranger? Unless Yahweh build a house, they that labor in vain that build it. So we must begin to build our house through the Most High. How can you build a house without a wife? And how can you build a house with a wife with someone Yahweh has said you're not to even go into her? And they are not to come into you. This is where we got to start in attempting to build our house. And then we go to the very next thing. Furthermore, speaking of who is the stranger, because now we're naming names. Watch what Yahweh say here, because this is not just name calling. This is a sign and a wonder. And watch what the Creator said in the book of Jeremiah, the 30th chapter. Again, who is the stranger? Part 1. This is just part 1. I want you to understand that. We're going to deal with this thing in fullness because we've allowed ourselves, a lot of times we don't talk like Yahweh. And the reason why we don't talk like Yahweh is because oftentimes we're not speaking his words. Here it is, when we talking about the white man this and the white man that. Well, Yahweh ain't said nothing about the white man. That's how we talk. Those are descriptions. But we got to talk like Yahweh. Then we will also describe and use other various terms that Yahweh don't use. But we got to talk like Yahweh. We got to use his words. And I can understand why people don't talk like Yahweh and use his words, because the vast majority of the people that's teaching you don't even know his words. Therefore, they're not going to sound like the Most High. And Yahweh told us to go tell the people, thus says Yah, whether they adhere or whether they forbear. Watch what the Creator say in the book of Jeremiah, the 30th chapter. In the book of Jeremiah, 30th chapter, watch what the Creator say, starting in the 10th verse. You read about the 7 Canaanite nations. You read what Yahweh told Solomon in a dream about the various nations that he married into, that he was not supposed to do, and he allowed to come into our nation that he was not allowed to do. But watch this. Jeremiah 30, 10th verse. Therefore, fear thou not, O my servant Jacob, says Yahweh. Neither be dismayed, O Israel. For lo, I will save thee from afar, and thy seed from the land of their captivity. And Jacob shall return, and shall be in rest, and be quiet, and none shall make him afraid. And you notice, every word of Elohim is pure. And he is a shield unto them that put their trust in him. Add thou not unto his words, lest he reprove thee, and thou be found a liar. So this should teach you and show you something if you reading and you tremble at the word of Yah. Watch what it says. It tells us, don't fear, neither be dismayed, O Israel. For lo, I will save thee from afar, and you notice it said thy seed. What is a seed? A seed comes from an Israelite man. That's where the seed comes from. You got Abraham, you got Isaac, and you got Jacob. And they all had what you know what is called seed. And this seed come from their loins. And Jacob had 12 sons. And amongst these 12 sons, they had wives where we began to be the sand of the sea. That's how many in number. Can't even be counted. The stars of heaven can't even be counted. And Yahweh said he was going to save our seed from afar. Because Yahweh know all Israelites. He know who our seed is. He's going to save other people. But you must understand who you are and who the other people are. And if you don't understand the seed, now in Christianity, they teach that you had the Jews and the Gentiles. The Jews are these so-called people that belong to the Most High, and the Gentiles is everyone else. And this is not so at all. And that's in Christianity. That's in the New Testament, rather. And I want in Jewish teaching or in Judaism, they teach the seed comes from the mother and not the father, not the sons, but rather the mother. And I'm going to show you not only is that not the truth in Judaism, that's the truth in Judaism, but that's not the truth according to the word of Yahweh. And what they teach in Christianity is not the truth according to the word of Yahweh. I'm going to show you what seed actually is and how you can know who you are and who they are. Watch what this says. 11th verse. For I am with thee, says Yahweh, to save thee, though I make a full end. And what's a full end? That means complete. That means utter destruction. Watch what it says. For I am with thee, says Yahweh, to save thee, though I make a full end of all nations, whither I have scattered thee. Yet will I not make a full end of thee, but I will correct thee in measure, and will not leave thee altogether unpunished. So what is this saying? This is saying Yahweh is going to utterly destroy all the nations where he scattered us. And all you have to do in the scriptures, you can't know this, you can't search this out through any other books. The only way you can search where Yahweh scattered our people is in the scriptures. And Yahweh planned on making a full end of all the nations whether he has scattered us. Then ask yourself, are these the people that you would join yourself unto? Now, amongst these nations, are there individuals that might escape that Yahweh talked about? Yes, it is. And we're going to show you who they are, who these people are. But make no mistake about it, according to Yahweh's word, and he meant what he said, and he said what he meant, that he will make a full end of all the nations, whether he has scattered thee. And we're going to show you the various places where Yahweh scattered our people, so you can know what Yahweh has determined against these people. But what will that teach you after you find out? Well, that's going to show you one thing and one thing only. Who is the stranger? Because this is what you need to know. Furthermore, in the book of Malachi, turn there. In the book of Malachi, watch this. Malachi, the 2nd chapter. And watch what it says. And we're going to start reading at the 11th verse. Or let's start at the 10th verse. Malachi 2 and 10. Have we not all one Father? And the answer is yes. Have not one Elohim created us? And the answer is yes. Why do we deal treacherously every man against his brother by profaning the covenant of our fathers? In other words, why are we doing this since we only got one Father and only one Elohim created us all? But what is Yahweh speaking about? What have we done? Well, he's about to tell you. And watch what we've allowed not only to be done, but what we are doing. And watch what it says. Yehuda have dealt treacherously, and an abomination is committed in Israel and in Jerusalem. For Yehuda have profaned the holiness of Yahweh, which he loved, and have married the daughter of a strange deity. What is this saying? What is this letting us know? What is this giving us insight to? There's many nations Yahweh told us not to even deal with. And why? Because their daughters would turn our heart away from serving the Most High. And Yehuda have married the daughter of a strange deity. And we got to know who these is. Not just the Canaanite nations. There's many nations that their idols are stronger than your marriage. In other words, she loves you. You love her. But she loves her idol more than she loves you. And she's not going to change for you. But what she will do, she will turn your heart away if you allow her. And let me tell you, brothers and sisters, this thing we have succumbed to and lost, as Yahweh said we would. So why would you allow yourself to go and marry a daughter of a strange deity, rather than marrying a daughter that is an Israelite that have not joined themselves unto a strange deity? What has got into our mind that we have allowed ourselves to take hold of women, daughters, that love idolatry? This is something Yahweh said, unless Yahweh build a house, they that labor in vain that what? Build it. So before you get married, brothers, you want to know who is your Elohim. And if it's not Yahweh, if it's not the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, if it's not the Elohim of thy fathers, then it's an idol. It's a deity. And it's something that you should not be marrying. Furthermore, who is the stranger? Well, all you have to do is look at what Yahweh said. Yahweh told us in the book of Deuteronomy 7 chapter, 7 nations greater than us. We're not to make marriages with them. Don't go into them. And don't come into us. Canaanites and the Perizzites and the Jebusites and the Hittites and the Girgashites. These nations, Yahweh said, no, don't deal with. We also find in the book of 1 Kings, the 11th chapter, Yahweh told us there was other nations, such as the daughter of Pharaoh, which are the Egyptians, the Zidonians, the Edomites, the Hittites, the Ammonites, the Moabites. Again, nations that we were not to go into. Solomon was warned. And don't let them come into us, because surely they will turn your heart away. This is about your heart. This is about your service to the Most High. This is about the legacy, thy seed on earth. Then Yahweh told us in the book of Jeremiah, the 30th chapter, that all the nations where he scattered us, he will make a full end of them. Now, who is that? Well, I'm going to show you some of these nations so you can see who Yahweh has determined to destroy. Maybe then you will understand. Maybe then you will know who is the stranger? And furthermore, Yahweh said, oh, I never did finish. Watch this. Still in Malachi, the 2nd chapter. We read the 11th verse. And we're going to read it again. But the 12th verse is the part that I want you to see. Yehudah have dealt treacherously. An abomination is committed in Israel and in Jerusalem. For Yehudah have profaned the holiness of Yahweh which he loved, and have married the daughter of a strange deity. In other words, you know this some foreigner, because the daughters of Zion, that's what they call the daughters of Zion. But this is the daughter of a strange deity. And watch what Yahweh says. Yahweh will cut off the man that doeth this, the master and the scholar, out of the tabernacles of Jacob. And what is a tabernacle? House. In other words, the house of Jacob. And him that offering unto Yahweh of hosts. In other words, he's going to cut the Yehudahite man off. He's going to cut the priest off. He's going to cut any man that does this. Marrying the daughter of a strange deity. So, ask yourself, who is this? Well, I can tell you, someone not an Israelite. So it seems to me very pertinent that we find out who the stranger is. Many of the nations where we're scattered. You better search out who they are. The various nations that Yahweh named out of his mouth. And the various daughters who was raised up with a deity that's all they have known. But Yahweh don't stop there. For who is the stranger? In the book of Isaiah. And watch what this says. The 11th chapter. Starting at the 10th verse. Isaiah 11 and 10. And in that day there shall be a root of Jesse, which shall stand for an ensign of the people. To it shall the nations seek, the Gentiles seek, and his rest shall be glorious. And it shall come to pass in that day that Yahweh shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people. And watch this, because these are some of the people that you want to make note of. Watch what it says. Which shall be left from Assyria. You better find out where our people at today in Assyria, because many of the Assyrians shall be destroyed. And from Egypt, you better find out, because many of the Egyptians shall be destroyed. From Pathros, from Cush, and yes, Cush are the Ethiopians. From Elam, from Shinar, and from Hamath, and from the islands of the sea. And he shall set it up an ensign for the nations, shall assemble the outcasts of Israel, and gather together the dispersed of Yehudah from the four corners of the earth. This is what Yahweh said he would do. Watch what it says in the 14th verse. But they shall fly upon the shoulders of the Philistines toward the west. They shall spoil them of the east together. They shall lay their hand upon Edom and Moab, and the children of Ammon shall obey them. So I'm just showing you the various nations who you need to familiarize yourself with. Because then how could you know who is the stranger without familiarizing yourself with these people? And what Yahweh has determined upon them. Watch this in the book of Isaiah. The 14th chapter. And watch what this says. Or let's start at the 13th chapter. Isaiah 13, and we're going to start reading at the 19th verse. And watch what this says. In Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees' excellency shall be as when Elohim overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. It shall never be inhabited, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. Neither shall the Arabian pitch tent there, neither shall the shepherds make their fold there. But wild beasts of the desert shall lie there. Their houses shall be full of doleful creatures. Owls shall dwell there. Satyrs shall dance there. The wild beasts of the islands shall cry in their desolate houses, and dragons in their pleasant palaces. And her time is near to come, and her days shall not be prolonged. This is Babylon. And if you don't know what Babylon is today, you better find out. And speaking of Babylon, watch what it says in the book of Isaiah 14. Because we're speaking about who is the stranger. We showed you in the scripture by name many of the strangers. And what Yahweh said, commanded us, that we're not to make marriages with them. Don't go into them, and don't allow them to come into us. We showed you where Yahweh said every nation that he has scattered us, he will make a full end of them, but he won't make a full end of thee. We showed you the mistake, the grave mistake Solomon made that caused us to be two nations today when he married strange women that turned his heart away. As Yahweh said they would do if we make marriages with them. We showed you where Yahweh said he will cut off the scholar the master and the man that doeth this, and that is to marry the daughter of a strange deity. And we showed you many of the nations, some of the nations where Yahweh scattered our people, many of the islands, and Pathros, and Cush, which is Ethiopia, Assyria, Hamath, and many other nations recorded in the book of Isaiah, the 11th chapter. And watch what this says. We're going to start in the book of Isaiah, the 14th chapter. And we're going to start reading in the 12th verse. And watch what it says. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer? And if you don't know who Lucifer is, it'll tell you, the son of the morning. And who is that? Well, it's going to tell you. How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? For thou hast said in thy heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of Elohim. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. But watch what Yahweh said. Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. They that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee and consider thee, saying, is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdoms, that made the world as a wilderness, and destroyed the cities thereof, and that opened not the house of his prisoners? All the kings of the nations, even all them lie in glory, everyone in his own house. But thou art cast out of thy grave like an abominable branch, and as the raiment of those that are slain, thrust through with the sword, that go down to the stones of the pit as a carcass trodden under feet. And watch what it says. Thou shalt not be joined with them in burial, because thou hast destroyed thy land, slain thy people. The seed of evildoers shall never be renowned. And watch what it says. Prepare slaughter for his children, for the iniquity of their fathers, that they do not rise nor possess the land, nor fill the face of the world with cities. For I will rise up against them, says Yahweh of hosts, and cut off from Babylon the name, remnant, son, and nephew, says Yahweh. And I will also make it a possession for bittering and pools of water, and I will sweep it with the bosom of destruction, says Yahweh of hosts. So in other words, what is this letting us know? Yes, the great daughter of Babylon, Yahweh has prepared destruction for Babylon, the daughter of Babylon. And did not it say, thou shalt not be joined with them in burial? Well, in other words, these people are, destruction is determined on them. So why will we make marriages with them? Furthermore, in the book of ObediYAH, watch what this is. Or instead of ObediYAH, the book of Malachi, the first chapter. And I may add, this is just part one. Because Yahweh has purpose to destroy many nations. That don't mean people cannot be saved. That don't mean that strangers cannot be saved. But I'm here to tell you, the mass majority of the inhabitants of the earth, these various nations that you know today, Yahweh has determined evil and destruction. And if you have been educated on the scriptures, that it would only be a remnant of Israel, then you also must know there will only be a remnant of the nations. And watch what the scriptures say in the book of Malachi, the first chapter. The very first verse. The burden of the word of Yahweh to Israel by Malachi. I've loved you, said Yahweh. Yet ye say, wherein hast thou loved us? Was not Esau Jacob's brother, said Yahweh? Yet I loved Jacob, and I hated Esau, and laid his mountains and his heritage waste for the dragons of the wilderness. Whereas Edom said, now I thought he was our brother, and that Yahweh said he can be a part of us. But here Yahweh said he hated Esau, laid his mountains and his heritage to waste for the dragons of the wilderness. And watch what he said. Whereas Edom said, we are impoverished because Esau done had a hard time in the world. But we will return and build the desolate places. And that's all they've been trying to do all their life. Thus is Yahweh of hosts. They shall build, but I will throw down. And they shall call them the border of wickedness, and the people against whom Yahweh have indignation forever. And your eyes shall see, and ye shall say, Yahweh be magnified from the border of Israel. Because who do you think is in the land right now? One that Yahweh has determined evil and destruction against. And that's Esau, whom Yahweh hates. Now, would you allow yourself to be joined unto them? This would not be a wise choice. Furthermore, in the book of Isaiah, the 60th chapter, turn there. And watch what it says. Isaiah 60. The 12th verse. For the nation and kingdom that will not serve thee, speaking of Israel, shall perish. Yea, those nations shall be utterly wasted. So in other words, out of all the scriptures I've showed you thus far, there are still nations that have to bow to Israel. And Yahweh said if they don't, and many won't, they will be utterly wasted. These are the things that you got to know. And what should this be teaching you? Who is the stranger? Because you can't even begin to understand the laws about the stranger without first knowing who the stranger is. We think the stranger is just somebody who's joined himself unto us. No. No. The stranger is many places, and all the places where Yahweh have scattered us. The strangers are those who Yahweh mentioned out of his mouth. The strangers is the nations, the various nations that is not of the seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You might be the seed of Abraham, but you're not the seed of Isaac. And you might be the seed of Isaac, but you're not of the seed of Jacob. You must be the seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Now, you are part of the house of Israel. You part of the seed that Yahweh said he will bring back from destruction. And he will save you from afar. Who is the stranger? This is what we're speaking about. So you can understand, first and foremost, or lest Yahweh build a house, they that labor in vain that build it. That's what you got to know, number one. So as you begin to go to do what Yahweh has mandated for man, the scriptures say, he that findeth a wife findeth a good thing and obtain favor of Yahweh. And Yahweh didn't lie. Finding a wife is finding a good thing. A good thing. But many of the wives, many of these wives that our people have taken, this is the thing that Yahweh told us not to do. Now, what we have to do is get back to the thing that Yahweh has commanded us. And this is where we begin. Who is the stranger? I think we might have time for just a couple more scriptures. And one of the main scriptures that you need to see One is in the book of Genesis, the 17th chapter. Before I go there, because I want you to see this also, and it's in Isaiah 14. Now, I meant to show you this. Because a lot of people will go to the scripture and watch what it says. Isaiah 14:1. And it says this. And we're going to deal with this in detail, but I want to make a point. Isaiah 14:1. For Yahweh will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Israel and set them in their own land. And the strangers, and who are the strangers? We've been telling you about the strangers, shall be joined with them. Now you know whoever these strangers are, they are not the strangers whom Yahweh has determined evil and destruction against. They are not the strangers whom Yahweh said you cannot marry. And don't let them come into you. Because surely they will turn your heart away. They are not the strangers whom Yahweh said, I will cut off the master and the scholar and the man that doeth this, that marry the daughter of a strange deity. You notice he didn't say he will cut off the wife. He will cut off the woman. It said he will cut off the man. And why the man? Because it is he that should have known better. Watch what it says. For Yahweh will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Israel and set them in their own land. And the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Yaakov. And the people shall take them and bring them to their place. And the house of Israel shall possess them in their land, in the land of Yahweh, for servants and handmaids. You notice it didn't say, let me read that again. And the people shall take them and bring them to their place. And the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of Yahweh for wives and concubines. No, it didn't say that at all. It says, and Israel shall possess them in the land of Yahweh for servants and handmaids. And they shall take them captives, whose captives they were. And they shall rule over their oppressors. And it shall come to pass in that day that Yahweh shall give thee rest from thy sorrow and from thy fear and from thy hard bondage, wherein thou was made to serve. This is what Yahweh said he would do. So who is the stranger? Furthermore, in the book of Genesis, the 17th chapter.
$90.
Watch what it says. In the book of Genesis 17. The 9th verse. And Elohim said unto
60
Abraham,
seconds.
Thou shalt keep my covenant, therefore, thou and thy seed after thee in their generations. This is my covenant which ye shall keep between me and you and thy seed after thee. Every man child among you shall be circumcised, and ye shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and this shall be the token of the covenant between me and you. And he that is 8 days old shall be circumcised among you. Every man child in your generations, he that is, watch what it says.
10
now.
seconds.
He that is born in the house or bought with money of any stranger, which is not of thy seed. He that is born in a house, and he that is bought with thy money must needs be circumcised. And my covenant shall be in your flesh for an everlasting covenant. And the uncircumcised man child, whose flesh of his foreskin is not circumcised, that soul shall be cut off from his people. He hath broken my covenant. Now who is the stranger? He that is born in the house or bought with money of any stranger, which is not of thy seed. He that is born in thy house, and he that is bought with thy money must be circumcised. In other words, the strangers, and you know this is not applicable today because we're not buying anybody. People bought us. But if we did buy them, and after buying them, they were born in our house just like our own sons, they must be circumcised. Furthermore, in the book of Exodus, the 12th chapter, last scripture, this is what it says. 43rd verse. And Yahweh said unto Moshe and Aaron, this is the ordinance of the Passover. There shall no stranger eat thereof, but every man's servant that is bought for money, when thou hast circumcised him, then shall he eat thereof. A foreigner and a hired servant shall not eat thereof. This is who the stranger is. Watch the 47th verse. All the congregation of Israel shall keep it. And when a stranger shall sojourn with thee, now who is that? One that is bought with your money or born in your house. and will keep the Passover of Yahweh. Let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near and keep it. And he shall be as one born in the land, for no uncircumcised person shall eat thereof. One law shall be to him that is homeborn, and unto the stranger that sojourneth among you. This is who the stranger is. And there are many strangers that we, as the house of Israel, should not be concerning ourselves with. This is part one. Because we're going to show you who the strangers that Yahweh has said will be a part of the house of Israel. But unless Yahweh build a house, they that labor in vain to build it. And we need to start at the foundation, and that is through marriage. And the foundation of all our houses. So until tomorrow, Yahweh love you, and so do I. Shalom.
To you, my Yah, do I lift up my soul. And trusting you, he always kept me whole. And left my enemies deep in their holes. Let none that wait on Yahweh be ashamed. For shame on those who sin without a cause. Show me your ways, please teach me your laws. Oh Elohim of my salvation, I'm staying down and patient. As a child, all the while I'm waiting. Remember not the sins of my youth. Lead me in your truth, and he'll give your soul ease. The earth shall remain inherited by a seed. The secret of Yah's one who fears Elohim, of who believes everything. And to every word spoken, you can't take heed unless you hear somebody curse you. Know you did the same thing. That's why I'm begging Yah for mercy and His love and kindness, cause I know that I ain't worthy.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.